We are tackling corruption and human rights violation through legislation and education. And we are nurturing the stable consensus-based politics that will allow us to achieve inclusive politics. I am proud to announce that after many years of trials, we have finally begun biometrically registering the Somali soldiers. In addition to that, we have completed a viable transition plan. There is a concrete evidence of our government's commitment to security reform, economic progress, and strengthening partnership. In the next 6 to 12 months, the federal government will continue to concentrate its effort on advancing the key priorities of state building on inclusive politics, economic reform, security, and building resilience. While the role of our valuable partners will continue to be critical, this role support must focus more on strengthening Somali institutions' capacity to lead and deliver for Somali people. The mutual accountability framework is the basis of Somali's partnership with the international community. The Somali government is working tirelessly to improve the systems and processes that will further increase our ability to deliver vital basic services to our people. In this respect, notably progress has been made, and I wish to acknowledge all our major partners, including the international financial institutions and the EU, who are pledging more resources. Your support for Somalia's economic development allows us to work towards debt relief and the expansion of opportunities for the Somali people. In all our bilateral and multilateral discussions, we agreed that Somalia's progress will be holistic and inclusive, with accountability leadership from the federal government. We are all committed to this. The recent National Security Council meeting in Baydhabo and its outcome proves our strong willingness to collaborate and cooperate. Somalia and its federal member states see a future of common prosperity where we cooperate meaningfully on the path to inclusive development and engagement. Accordingly, we urge all our international partners to incorporate this into their support and assistance. Somalia is one entity, united by a shared vision and driven by a common purpose in favor of all the Somali people. I am proud to say we are truly together. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, much progress has been made in improving our country's systems. This would not have been possible without the support of many of our valuable partners. Therefore, in line with our fiscal, banking, and economic reforms, we urge all partners to commit to using our country's system to channel their development support and assistance. Somalia's resources and opportunities are boundless. Somalia offers investors and partner governments a golden opportunity to bridge profit and social progress. Investment will also lead to long-term job creation, penetration of new markets, and a real reduction in aid support budgets. Investment can turn in aid into a trade and inject hope and a spirit of entrepreneurship in Somali youth. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have before us a historic opportunity for enhancing partnership built on our mutual accountability framework to deliver accelerated progress for our benefit. We need to work even more closely to achieve our objectives of stability and progress in Somalia. My government intends to move this country forward with our partners' steadfast support. Partnership is crucial for Somalia. It gives us means in recognizing, strengthening, and promoting Somalia's desire to assume responsibility across the spectrum of development and progress issues. I once again urge all our valuable partners to do this by aligning all support with the priorities set by the Somali government in the National Development Plan. Finally, I wish to pay tribute to the African Union and the men and women of AMISOM whose bravery and sacrifice has been essential to Somali's progress. We are grateful for your critical role in supporting my government and the people of Somalia. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's now my pleasure to give the floor to the Foreign Minister of Sweden, my good friend Margot Wallström, that is co-chairing with me this forum.
Thank you, Federica. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here today, and I'm really proud to be on the podium together with these good people around me to reinforce our joint commitments, take stock of progress made so far, and agree on the next steps in our partnership with Somalia. There is real momentum, as we've heard, created by the hard work of Somali stakeholders and facilitated by strong support from the international community. We need to continue forward together, or is it Yalla forward together, building on progress and aligning our efforts to promote peaceful and prosperous development in Somalia. I hope that today's meeting will take us forward together along 4 major themes. First, state building and women's participation. And as the new federal map of Somalia has taken shape, Somalia has reached a point in its state and peace building process where reforms will be increasingly difficult, requiring numerous compromises and concessions. And it is my conviction that the only way to achieve sustainable peace is through truly inclusive political process. In fact, building democracy means building a system of peaceful conflict resolution. State building will only be successful when women hold political positions at all levels and participate actively in society. It is crucial for Somalia's continued development that women play an influential role on par with that of the men. To ensure that the federal member states can contribute to Somalia's peace-building process, the federal government needs to take steps to strengthen the state's capacity, and the recent violent clashes in northern Somalia highlight the urgent need to find peaceful and lasting solutions to Somalia's political challenges. Second, the need for security-related reforms, which has generated several agreements over the last year. The transition plan is instrumental in this regard. It demonstrates Somalia's commitment to working towards assuming responsibility for the country's security. And it is in the interest of all of us to ensure the successful implementation of the transition plan. A hasty and premature drawdown of AMISOM forces risks undermining the hard-won gains against Al-Shabaab. We therefore need to strike a balance between wanting to see quick progress and being mindful of the patience required to reach our long-term goal, a secure and stable Somalia at peace with itself and its neighbors. I'm particularly pleased and grateful to see distinguished representatives of the TCCs here today. Without your important efforts, the achievements of the past few years would not have been possible. Your continued contribution to AMISOM remains equally instrumental in securing Somalia's long-term stability. My third point is that Somalia is on the threshold of a new financial foundation. Continued commitment to the implementation of financial programs with the IMF and World Bank has opened prospects for concessional financing and a pathway to debt relief. To continue on this positive track, international support should be geared towards the implementation of these crucial reforms. And fourth and finally, I would like to stress the need for all of us to align our efforts. I urge all of Somalia's neighbors on both sides of the Red Sea to work together to ensure regional cooperation for the good of Somalia and the wider Horn of Africa. The recent positive developments in the region, in particular the rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea, renew our belief in a peaceful and prosperous Horn of Africa. As for Sweden, our commitment to Somalia is long-term and solid. Swedish-Somali ties go back decades and they run deep. The Somali diaspora in Sweden represents no less than 1% of our population of today, participates in all parts of society and includes by now parliamentarians, musicians and entrepreneurs. The diaspora is not only a vibrant part of our society but also of our bilateral relations. Just the other week, the Swedish government, as I've already said today, decided to double our development aid to Somalia to approximately $350 million over the next 5 years. The primary target areas of the new strategy include some of those we are addressing here, namely sustainable peace, resilience and gender equality. And one concrete example of our capacity building efforts is Sweden's 5 national agencies working in Somalia. This doubling of our financial support together with our current work is testimony to Sweden's long-term commitment to enhancing our partnership based on mutual respect and a belief in Somalia's potential. I want to close by thanking you all for coming to this important event. Your participation is a clear expression of your support to Somalia's development, and I encourage all of us to remain engaged in keeping the positive developments on track. Forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot, also for all the work we're doing together in preparing this important meeting today. And let me now pass the floor to the African Union Peace and Security Commissioner, my good friend Ismail Shirki. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Federica Mogherini, High Representative and Vice President of the European Commission, His Excellency Mohammed Abdullahi Mohammed, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, Her Excellency Mrs. Margot Wallström, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Sweden, Her Excellency Rosemary DiCarlo, UN Under Secretary General for Political Affairs, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, we meet here today at this partnership forum in a period when Somalia is on the cusp of taking ownership of its own future. This is a clear indication that our collective investment in Somalia are yielding results. As we look to engage over the next day and a half, the African Union looks forward to deliberations that will contribute to a brighter and more prosperous future for all Somalis. I would like to seek this opportunity to highlight some of the significant progress we at the African Union and AMISOM have made since the last forum in early December 2017. First, let me remind us that at the last partnership forum, both the African Union and AMISOM committed themselves to a set of key milestones. This includes the reduction of the number of AMISOM troops by 1,000 in favor of police as required under Security Council Resolution 2372, and to gradually transfer security responsibilities to Somali security forces. The above commitments, in addition to the 3 priorities agreed at the Mogadishu Security Conference, set the basis for an action plan. A key component of this was the necessity of developing a transitional plan jointly by the federal government of Somalia, federal member states, AMISOM, and with the support of the international partners. Likewise, linked to developing a transitional plan has been the need to explore funding arrangements not only for AMISOM but also for the Somali security forces. Excellencies, I want to highlight the significant progress that African Union and AMISOM have made leading up to this forum. These include AMISOM drawing down by 1,000 in December 2017 in favor of police personnel, B, the development of transitional plan in partnership with the federal government and federal member states, C, the endorsement of the transitional plan by the African Peace and Security Council on the 30th April 2018, D, co-authorizing the African Union UN invoice report on AMISOM financing, E, the endorsement of the African Union UN joint review on AMISOM reportedly to the Africa Union Peace and Security Council meeting in Nouakchott, Mauritania on 27 June 2018. These and other developments highlight the commitment of the African Union and AMISOM towards contributing to the federal government's interconnected reform agenda on security, inclusive politics and the economy. Excellencies, with the African Union and AMISOM continued support, Somalia has made considerable progress to securing peace and stability. However, Somalia still faces many challenges, such as pace of national reconciliation and the finalization of the constitution review, fundamental processes towards building consensus among Somali stakeholders on the nature of the federal Somalia. Similarly, the African Union wishes to see considerable progress towards the completion of the implementation of the national security architecture, as called for during the recent concluded National Security Council summit in Baidoa. The continued tensions between centre and periphery, particularly around the resources sharing and over the right to engage in foreign affairs, require quick resolutions. The risk of reversing the gains made by Somali's partners' collective efforts in this regard increase with delays in reaching an agreement. Permit me at this point to applaud the efforts of President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmaajo in his attempts to lead the rebuilding of a viable security sector and based on the framework of the comprehensive approach to security. In this context, I am pleased to report that the transitioning of Mogadishu Stadium is on schedule for a successful handover this November. In attempting to achieve this self-imposed deadline, AMISOM uniformed personnel gallantly agreed to transit to Jazeera 2, where the living conditions are far below the standards expected for an international peacekeeper. AMISOM will remain in Jazeera 2 until ENSOS completes the habitation upgrade. Elsewhere, AMISOM is in close collaboration with the federal government, are actively planning for the recovery of Lego and clearing the Baidoa-Mogadishu main supply routes. While operational details are completed, challenges remain in terms of force generation, equipment for SNA, and integration of the regional forces. Excellencies, allow me to further remind this forum that in December 2017, it was also agreed that the two other priorities for immediate action were the implementation of the national security architecture and the continued international support to building the capacity of Somali security forces and institutions emerging from progress on the development of the transitional plan and the implementation of the national security architecture. In echoing the Peace and Security Council, I wish to call for accelerated efforts by the UN, the larger international community, and the TTC PCCs to urgently support the federal government in building the capacity for its security forces and institutions. At the African Union, we have called for an expanded training and mentoring role for AMISOM military and police component. This will rapidly generate the required security forces to implement the transitional plan. In order to achieve this training, the implementation of national security architecture requires immediate priorities, including implementation of the ORA recommendation and strengthening of the federal security model. B. Federal government and federal member states' implementation of the integration of regional forces into SNA and SPF. C. Development of SNA that is capable of implementing the transitional plan through retraining existing SNA troops to undertake joint operation with AMISOM. D. Sustainability for integrated forces through regular payment of salaries and provision of barracks. E. Federal government to provide funding to operationalize the Regional Security Council and security offices. The African Union remains encouraged by the federal government's leadership plan to retire those SNA troops that have reached retirement age. Regarding the funding of AMISOM, the African Union notes that AMISOM's continued presence and its role within the transition will necessitate the securing of predictable and sustainable funding, both for AMISOM and the Somali security institutions. Consequently, the African Union looks forward to the outcome of the next step following the UN Security Council consideration of Envoy's report on AMISOM financing. As noted by the envoys in their reports and highlighted again in the recent joint review, AMISOM must undergo a transformation. AMISOM's transformation will compel it to reorganizing and reconfiguring itself to meet the demands of the ongoing transition. However, taking into consideration the challenges faced by the Somali security forces, AMISOM is likely to encounter difficulties with a further drawdown, resulting in a potential reversal of gains. In this regard, the African Union Peace and Security Council has welcomed the recommendation of joint review to delay the 1,000 troop reduction due in October to February 2019, pending an assessment of AMISOM capabilities. This assessment is also expected to demonstrate the urgent need to reconfigure AMISOM's civil component to both meet the new demands of AMISOM uniformed personnel and the transition. Already AMISOM is in the final planning phase of deploying its advanced team of civilians comprising stabilization and political officers to federal member states to begin substantive work. In conclusion, the African Union wishes to underline its full commitment to strengthening its partnership with the federal government through the existing Somalia African Union Joint Task Force, with the aim of supporting Somalia in its pursuit of peace and stability. We want also to thank the European Union and all our partners in this common endeavor. I want to thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, and let me now turn the floor to Rosemary Di Carlo, UN Under-Secretary General for Political Affairs.
Thank you, High Representative. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be with you today. We meet as Somalia opens a new chapter in its history, one that has the potential to fundamentally transform the country. The transition plan we have been discussing represents significant progress in affirming Somali ownership of security. We commend the federal government of Somalia and federal member states for the strong political will they have demonstrated. The priorities they have set must now guide our activities and be the anchor of our common engagement in the country. Mutual accountability should drive the implementation of the transition plan, but implementation will not be possible without adequate resources and commensurate political will. Many partners have made significant contributions to the stabilization process. It is critical that we now align our existing and future support to the priorities outlined in the plan and channel required funding through Somalia's national systems. The United Nations is fully committed to Somalia's future and will support implementation of the plan through its UN missions in Somalia and relevant UN agencies. Excellencies, let me pay tribute to the ultimate sacrifice that AMISOM has made. Its presence remains critical while Somalia builds its security capacity. We look to the African Union and AMISOM troop contributing countries to begin the reconfiguration called for in the plan. And we look to the European Union to maintain its investment in AMISOM. The United Nations is ready to work with the African Union and other partners to broaden the base of financial contributions to the force. Excellencies, progress in Somalia will only be sustained by political agreement that forms the basis of the federal state. We commend the leaders of both the federal government and federal member states for recent agreements that chart a path to universal suffrage elections. Over the next 6 months, there will be a need to advance the constitutional review. In particular, agreement on the allocation of power and resource sharing is necessary. Genuine inclusivity of federal member states, parliamentarians, clan power brokers, the private sector, and civil society is essential, as is the meaningful participation of women. The United Nations is ready to step up its good offices, advice, and assistance in support of this political roadmap. Political progress will also be the basis for further economic reforms. We commend the federal government for its significant efforts to put the country on a sounder economic and financial footing. These reforms will promote economic development and reduce Somalia's reliance on external aid. We also welcome the government's approach to tackling resilience and recovery, and we call on all partners to engage with the Resilience and Recovery Framework and support investments that link humanitarian and development work and promote long-term growth. These reforms will ultimately strengthen Somalia's resistance against internal and external pressures. We encourage all to work in a constructive spirit to support the federal system and respect Somalia's unity. We should prevent internal and external conflicts from undermining progress in Somalia. Excellencies, we have been working to provide a future of peace and prosperity in a sovereign Somalia. It is time to invest in progress to make it irreversible in order to achieve our common goal of a lasting peace in that country. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me really warmly welcome and thank, first of all, the President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, the African Union Commission, the United Nations, my partner in co-hosting and co-chairing this forum, Sweden, for this opening session of our partnership forum. I would like now to invite, before we proceed with the first session of our works, the heads of delegation to follow us for a family photo, and then we'll immediately come back to this room to proceed with the summary on the outcomes of the priorities by the Deputy Prime Minister, and then with the interventions from the different delegations. Thank you.